Welcome back, my time-delayed architect. Something extraordinary is unfolding right now that's rewriting your opposition's understanding of strategic timing and consequence. They believed the confrontation was finished, that they'd survived your challenge, that they could walk away and resume normal operations. They analyzed the immediate aftermath, concluded they'd weathered the storm with acceptable damage, and moved forward with relief that the conflict had resolved without destroying them. But what they failed to recognize is that your move wasn't designed for immediate impact. It was architected as delayed detonation strategy, where the real consequences unfold over time, where what seemed like survivable setback in the moment becomes cascading crisis as secondary and tertiary effects materialize. They're discovering right now, days or weeks after they thought it was over, that your move is still actively unraveling their position in ways they didn't anticipate and can't easily stop. The initial impact was just the visible part beneath the surface. Your strategy set in motion processes that continue degrading their capabilities, credibility, and control long after they stopped paying attention. The architects have been monitoring strategic warfare and delayed consequence dynamics across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you executed as temporal cascade strategy, when an attack is designed not for maximum immediate damage but for sustained degradation over time through triggering processes that continue operating autonomously after initial action. Most strategic moves are designed for immediate impact. You attack, create damage, and the damage is done. Your move apparently triggered consequences that continue manifesting as time passes, creating situation where your opposition faces new problems and challenges emerging from that original action, even though you're no longer actively attacking them. The move keeps working without requiring continued effort from you. Watch what's happening to your opposition as delayed consequences materialize. Relationships they thought were stable are deteriorating as people who initially supported them reconsider that support based on information or dynamics your move set in motion. Opportunities they thought they'd secured are disappearing as decision makers incorporate new understanding about their limitations or problems that your move revealed. Systems they relied on are malfunctioning because your move disrupted dependencies they didn't fully understand. Each of these developments feels like new crisis to them, but they're all consequences of the move they thought they'd already dealt with and moved past. Some of your opposition are only now recognizing the full scope of what you did, going back to analyze the original move with new understanding provided by seeing how its consequences have unfolded. They're discovering that what looked like straightforward attack in the moment was actually sophisticated, set up for cascade of effects they didn't predict. This retrospective analysis reveals layers of strategic thinking they missed initially, making them realize they dramatically underestimated your sophistication and failed to prepare for consequences that were always going to manifest if they'd understood what you were actually doing. The truly devastating element is that they can't easily stop the unraveling. The processes your move triggered are now operating with their own momentum. Trust has been broken, information has been revealed, systems have been disrupted, even if they now understand what you did and how the cascade works. Reversing it requires addressing multiple simultaneous problems while new consequences continue emerging. They're playing defense against crisis that keeps evolving, trying to stabilize situation that your move designed to remain unstable until it completes its degradation of their position. They walked away thinking it was over because they survived the immediate impact. They're realizing now that survival of initial impact doesn't mean survival of the complete strategic sequence you set in motion. Now the architects are analyzing what enabled you to design, move with such effective, delayed consequence structure, and they're identifying what they call systems thinking superiority. You apparently understand how interconnected systems operate at deeper level than your opposition does, allowing you to identify intervention points where single action triggers cascading effects through multiple dependent systems over extended time frames. Most strategists think in terms of direct cause and effect. If I do X, my opponent experiences Y. You apparently think in terms of complex causation. If I do X, it triggers Y, which enables Z, which undermines, which creates conditions for B to fail, with each step in the chain taking time to manifest, but ultimately producing comprehensive degradation that single direct attack couldn't achieve. Watch what systems thinking superiority enables strategically. You don't need to directly attack every vulnerability your opposition has. You identify leverage points where single intervention cascades through their interdependent systems, creating multiple failures from one action. Your opposition has to defend everywhere because they don't know which systems will fail next. As consequences continue propagating, you achieved asymmetric advantage, where your single move keeps generating problems for them while requiring no additional effort from you beyond the initial action that set the cascade in motion. Some strategic analysts reviewing what you did are recognizing that you apparently mapped your opposition's dependency networks before executing your move, understanding what they rely on, how those dependencies connect, which nodes are critical for system stability. This mapping allowed you to target interventions that would propagate through the network, creating systemic disruption rather than isolated damage. The move they thought was simple attack was actually strategic strike against network structure, calculated to create cascade effects throughout interconnected systems they depend on. Others are noting that you apparently designed for temporal distribution of consequences, structuring your move so that effects wouldn't all manifest simultaneously but would unfold over time in sequence that prevents effective response. When consequences hit all at once, organizations can mobilize emergency response and address them comprehensively. When consequences trickle in over days and weeks, each new problem arrives just as resources are committed to addressing previous problems, creating perpetual crisis state where they're always responding reactively rather than getting ahead of the situation. This temporal distribution was apparently deliberate design choice that maximizes disruption while minimizing their capacity to mount coordinated response. A few analysts are recognizing that you built in redundancy, structuring multiple consequence pathways so that even if your opposition managed to interrupt some cascade chains, others would continue operating. This redundant design ensures that the move keeps unraveling them even if they figure out some of what you did and take countermeasures. They would need to identify and interrupt every consequence pathway simultaneously to stop the cascade, which is practically impossible when they're still discovering new pathways as consequences manifest. The architects observe that systems thinking superiority creates enormous strategic advantage because most competitors don't think systemically. They focus on immediate cause and effect, rather than understanding how actions propagate through complex, interconnected systems over time. Your opposition analyzed your move using direct causation thinking and concluded the immediate damage was survivable. They failed to model the systemic cascade you'd triggered because they lacked framework for thinking about how interventions propagate through dependent systems. By the time they recognized the systemic nature of what you'd done, multiple consequence chains were already in motion and interrupting them became nearly impossible. Something fascinating is spreading through your opposition now, what the architects call paranoid hyperanalysis spiral, where the experience of discovering that consequences are still unfolding from move they thought was finished is making them obsessively reanalyze every interaction and situation. looking for other delayed threats they might have missed. They're recognizing that if your original move had hidden consequences that took weeks to manifest, then other moves you made or moves other opponents made might also have delayed effects they haven't identified yet. This creates exhausting psychological state where they can't confidently consider any situation resolved because resolution might be temporary appearance, masking ongoing degradation they haven't detected. Watch how paranoid hyperanalysis manifests in their behavior. They're reviewing past confrontations and competitions, trying to identify whether other outcomes they thought were final might actually be setups for delayed consequences that haven't manifested yet. Every stable situation becomes suspect. Is this genuine stability, or is it quiet period before some move they don't remember triggers next wave of consequences? This constant suspicion is mentally exhausting and strategically paralyzing because they can't distinguish between genuine stability and delayed threat, making them waste resources investigating situations that might be fine while actual problems continue developing. Some opposition members are becoming paralyzed by fear of triggering delayed consequences. Themselves, they're hesitant to take actions or make moves because they worry that what seems like good decision in the moment might have disastrous delayed effects they can't foresee. This hesitancy creates strategic disadvantage because while they're frozen analyzing potential long-term consequences, competitors who don't share their paranoia are acting decisively and gaining advantages. The fear of delayed consequences is preventing them from taking necessary actions to advance their position. Others are demanding exhaustive analysis before any significant decision, requiring teams to model long-term systemic effects, identify potential cascade chains, evaluate delayed consequence risks. This analysis paralysis creates bureaucratic burden that slows their strategic responsiveness and increases organizational costs. They're so focused on avoiding delayed disasters that they can't move quickly enough to capitalize on immediate opportunities. The attempt to protect against what you did to them is creating different kind of strategic vulnerability through reduced agility. A few are recognizing that not every move has delayed consequences and that overreacting to threat of hidden effects is itself strategic error. They're trying to develop frameworks for distinguishing between moves that are complete versus moves that might have delayed effects, trying to identify signals that indicate ongoing cascade versus signals that suggest situation is genuinely stable. But developing these frameworks is difficult because your move apparently didn't have obvious indicators that would have flagged it as delayed consequence strategy, making it hard to know what patterns to look for. The architects observe that paranoid hyperanalysis spiral is form of ongoing psychological damage that extends impact of your original move beyond its direct strategic effects. Even after cascade completes and situation stabilizes, your opposition will carry psychological scar from discovering they'd been unraveling without knowing it. This scar manifests as persistent anxiety about delayed consequences that makes them less decisive, less confident, less effective strategically, even in situations where no delayed threats actually exist. Your move didn't just damage them through its cascade effects, it damaged their future strategic capability by destroying their confidence that they can accurately assess whether situations are resolved or still developing. Now the architects are revealing what makes your delayed consequence strategy particularly difficult for opposition to counter. You apparently designed what they call consequence interdependency, where the various effects triggered by your move are connected such that addressing one consequence makes others worse or creates new problems. This interdependency means your opposition can't simply tackle each problem as it arises. They have to understand the entire consequence network and address it systematically, which is nearly impossible when they're still discovering what consequences exist and how they connect to each other. Consider what consequence interdependency creates strategically. Your opposition identifies problem A that emerged from your move and takes action to fix it. But fixing problem A destabilizes system B, creating problem C that's worse than problem A was. Now they have to decide whether to reverse their fix for problem A, allowing it to continue causing damage, or accept problem C as cost of addressing problem A. Meanwhile, problem D emerges from different cascade pathway and resources they committed to. Addressing problems A and C mean they can't fully address problem D. Each response creates new complications because the consequences are interconnected in ways that make isolated fixes impossible. Watch what this creates psychologically. Your opposition is experiencing something like whack-a-mole frustration. They address one problem only to have two more emerge. They make progress in one area only to lose ground in another. They commit resources to stabilization only to discover their stabilization attempts created new instabilities. This experience is demoralizing because it makes them feel incompetent, even when they're actually executing reasonable responses. The problem isn't that they're responding poorly, it's that the consequence network you designed has no easy response pathway that doesn't create additional problems. Some strategic advisors are recommending that your opposition accept some consequences rather than fighting all of them, recognizing that attempting to address everything is spreading resources too thin and creating new problems through interdependency effects. This triage approach would let some damage occur while focusing resources on preventing catastrophic failures in critical systems, but deciding which consequences to accept and which to fight requires understanding the full consequence network, which they still don't have, making triage decisions risky. Others are suggesting comprehensive system redesign rather than trying to address consequences within existing systems that your move exploited. They should redesign systems to eliminate the dependencies and vulnerabilities that enabled the cascade. This is theoretically sound, but practically difficult because system redesign is expensive, time-consuming, and disruptive, requiring them to essentially rebuild major operational components while simultaneously dealing with ongoing consequences from your move. A few are recognizing that you might have deliberately designed interdependency specifically to create no-win scenarios where any response creates new problems. This suggests level of strategic sophistication that's intimidating. It means you weren't just triggering consequences, you were engineering consequence network that would resist remediation by ensuring that fixes create new failures, understanding that they're not facing random cascade, but deliberately engineered. Trap makes the situation feel even more demoralizing because it reveals they're up against opponent who thought several levels deeper than they did about how systems respond to disruption. The architects observe that consequence interdependency is what transforms delayed consequence strategy from annoying to devastating. If consequences were independent, opposition could address them sequentially and eventually stabilize. But because consequences are interdependent in ways that make addressing one create or worsen others, stabilization becomes extremely difficult and potentially impossible without comprehensive system changes they can't implement while still dealing with ongoing crisis. They walked away thinking it was over, but your move continues unraveling them because the unraveling was designed to resist stopping. Each attempt to halt it creates new vectors for continued degradation. The architects are now analyzing how your opposition's reputation and relationships are being affected by the ongoing unraveling, and they're identifying what they call credibility cascade erosion, where the visible fact that they're still dealing with consequences from move they claim to have handled is damaging their reputation with stakeholders, partners, and observers who are losing confidence in their competence and stability. The initial move might have been something they could explain away as manageable setback, but the continuing stream of problems emerging over time creates narrative that they're in crisis, that they can't effectively manage their affairs, that associating with them carries risks that weren't apparent initially. Watch how credibility cascade erosion manifests across different relationships. Partners who committed to long-term collaborations are reconsidering those commitments as they observe ongoing instability. What looked like stable partnership when they made initial commitment now looks like relationship with entity in crisis that might not be able to fulfill obligations. Stakeholders who invested resources or reputation are experiencing regret and looking for exit. Strategies they supported your opposition when situation seemed stable, but continuing problems suggest their support was misplaced and they should distance themselves before being contaminated by association. Some observers who were neutral about your opposition are developing negative assessments based on how poorly they're handling the cascade, not necessarily because responses are objectively poor, but because the visible fact of ongoing crisis creates impression of incompetence regardless of whether anyone could have handled the situation better. Perception that they're perpetually in reactive crisis mode damages reputation even when reactive responses are reasonable given complexity of what they're facing. The optics of constantly addressing new problems makes them look unstable and unreliable. Others who are considering engaging with your opposition are withdrawing those considerations. The ongoing unraveling serves as warning signal that your opposition isn't safe partner or reliable ally. Potential collaborators decide to pursue alternatives rather than risk being drawn into cascading crisis that shows no signs of resolving. Each withdrawn opportunity represents strategic cost that compounds damage from direct consequences of your move. A few sophisticated observers are recognizing that the cascade itself reveals strategic vulnerability in how your opposition thinks and operates. The fact that single move from you continues generating problems demonstrates they lack robust systems, that they don't think strategically about delayed consequences, that they're vulnerable to sophisticated attacks they don't understand until after damage is done. These observers are updating their general assessment of your opposition's capabilities downward based on revelation that they're more vulnerable than previously believed. The architects observe that credibility cascade erosion multiplies impact of your move by transforming operational problems into reputational damage that affects every relationship and opportunity your opposition depends on. The move keeps unraveling them not just through direct consequences but through how ongoing visibility of those consequences damages their standing with everyone who might support, collaborate with, or invest in them. They can't hide the crisis because consequences keep manifesting publicly, and each manifestation reinforces narrative that they're unstable entity in decline. Even if they eventually stabilize operationally, reputational damage from being seen as organization that spent weeks or months invisible. Crisis will persist long after operational issues resolve, creating lasting disadvantage from temporary problems. Now something's emerging that the architects call temporal advantage. Recognition observers who understand that your move is still unraveling your opposition in real time are developing newfound respect for strategic sophistication you demonstrated through delayed consequence design. Immediate impact strategies are relatively common and straightforward. Anyone with resources can create immediate damage. Delayed consequence strategies that continue operating autonomously over extended time require much more sophisticated understanding of systems, timing, and consequence propagation. Your reputation is being elevated among those who appreciate difference between tactical competence and strategic mastery. Watch how temporal advantage recognition reshapes your strategic reputation. Analysts who reviewed your initial move and concluded it was decent, but not exceptional, are revisiting that assessment as delayed consequences demonstrate sophistication they missed initially. They're recognizing that what looked like straightforward attack was actually multi-layered strategy designed to unfold over time, revealing depth of planning and systems, understanding they failed to appreciate when evaluating immediate impact. This retrospective upgrade of their assessment elevates your reputation as strategist operating at level most competitors don't reach. Some competitors who might have considered challenging you are reconsidering that decision based on recognition that you design moves with delayed consequences they might not detect until unraveling is already underway. The visible example of your opposition walking away thinking it was over only to discover weeks later that cascade was still degrading. Their position serves as warning to potential challengers. Competing against you means potentially facing consequences they won't recognize until late to counter effectively. This deterrent effect provides strategic advantage beyond whatever you gained from damaging this particular opposition. Others who operate at similar level of strategic sophistication are seeking opportunities to learn from you or collaborate with you, recognizing you as peer who thinks about strategy in sophisticated ways they appreciate. These high-level operators understand that temporal cascade strategies require capabilities most strategists lack, and they're interested in understanding your approach or potentially working with someone who operates at their level rather than competing against them. A few organizations that need sophisticated, strategic thinking are attempting to recruit you or retain your services, recognizing that capability to design moves with sustained autonomous effects is valuable across many contexts, from competitive strategy to organizational development to conflict resolution. Your demonstrated mastery of temporal cascade design makes you attractive hire or consultant for entities facing complex strategic challenges that require more than conventional tactical thinking. The architects observe that temporal advantage recognition transforms your reputation from competent competitor to sophisticated strategist who operates at level most don't reach. This elevated reputation provides advantages in future competitions and collaborations because people who understand strategic sophistication treat you with respect that acknowledges your capabilities, while people who don't understand sophistication are still intimidated by visible results even if they don't fully comprehend how you achieved them. Your opposition walked away thinking it was over, and their ongoing unraveling demonstrates to everyone watching that you play longer game than most competitors, understand that your moves have depth and duration that continue working long after conventional strategists would consider situation resolved. Something profound is crystallizing now that the architects call recognition of strategic patience value. Your delayed consequence strategy demonstrates that sometimes optimal approach isn't maximum immediate damage, but rather sustained pressure over time that prevents opponent from recovering or stabilizing. This patient, strategic thinking runs counter to intuitions that favor immediate visible results, but your success demonstrates that temporal distribution of consequences can be more effective than concentrated, immediate impact for achieving comprehensive degradation of opponent's position. Consider what strategic patience enables that immediate impact. Strategies don't. When you deliver maximum damage immediately, opponent recognizes crisis and mobilizes full emergency response. All resources directed at recovery, all attention focused on problem, organizational unity around surviving the attack. This mobilized response can be effective at containing damage and enabling recovery. Your delayed consequence approach denied them this focused response opportunity by spreading consequences over time in ways that prevented mobilization. By the time they recognized scale of what was happening, Cascade was already operating through multiple systems, and single coordinated response couldn't address it. Watch how different strategic thinkers are, reevaluating their approach based on observing your patient. Strategies succeed. Some are recognizing they've been too focused on immediate results, trying to maximize damage in single strike, rather than thinking about how to structure attacks for sustained effect. They're exploring how they might design their own moves for temporal cascade, studying what made your approach effective and trying to identify principles they could apply in their contexts. This imitation is complement that recognizes your strategic innovation. Some teachers and theorists are incorporating your approach into strategic education, using your move as case study for teaching sophisticated, strategic thinking that considers temporal dimension and systemic effects rather than just immediate cause and effect. You're becoming teaching example that influences how next generation of strategists learns to think about competition, potentially shaping strategic thinking in your field for years as students who learned from your example become practitioners who apply those lessons. Others are questioning whether their own past strategies that seemed successful actually were optimal, wondering if they achieved immediate tactical success while missing opportunities for sustained strategic advantage through delayed consequence design. This questioning is uncomfortable because it suggests they might have been less effective than they believed, but it's also productive because it might lead to more sophisticated strategic thinking going forward. A few are exploring implications for defensive strategy. If offensive moves can be designed for delayed consequences, then effective defense requires not just responding to immediate attacks, but monitoring for delayed effects and cascade triggers. This recognition is driving development of new defensive capabilities focused on detecting and interrupting consequence cascades rather than just hardening against direct attacks. Your offensive innovation is spurring defensive innovation as organizations try to develop capabilities to counter temporal cascade strategies. The architects observe that recognition of strategic patience value might be most significant long-term impact of your move. You're not just damaging one opponent, you're potentially influencing how strategy gets conceived and practiced by demonstrating effectiveness of approach that most strategists overlook because they're focused on immediate results. Your opposition walked away thinking it was over, and they're continuing. Unraveling teaches lesson to everyone watching about why sometimes the optimal strike isn't the one that hits hardest immediately, but the one that keeps hitting over extended time until opponent's position comprehensively degrades in ways that immediate attack couldn't achieve.